Well, howdy Internet, this is Steve of 1,000 Year Homes. Welcome aboard. So I'm out in the middle of my hayfield today, and the subject for today is silverleaf nightshade. Now this is a little weed here, grows like this, puts out a little pretty blue flower. Right there's a bud on it. But let me get you one with the flower. This, you can't even poison this. This is a real Texas weed. So last year I drove through this hayfield, and all of these were still in bloom, and there were some that had gone to seed, and I cut them all down with my shredder, hoping that I'd have less in the field. And I've got to tell you that I'm going to guess I have 60% less silverleaf nightshade than I did the year before. So year after year, if I get in here and I let the cattle eat around these and then mow them down, I think I'll get ahead of it. I don't think I can lick these. These are tough. I mean, seriously, you put poison on them, they just don't care. So kind of a pretty little flower, but anything that's called nightshade is not good for you. So what do I have here? Well, I have 4 old-fashioned methods of taking care of weeds. I've got a hand rake for weeding, cutting weeds down. I've got an old shovel. I like this method. It will cut through these things. I just cut them right off. I have a 40-volt Ryobi weed whacker. Then I have a mullet chop. So what we're going to do is we're going to experiment on my stock tank and find out what methodology I like best. Now, I'll let you know that weed whacker is going to go the fastest, right? But it's going to kill everything. So over by my other pond, I planted flowers. I've got poppies growing. I've got perennials there that need 2 years to come up before they bloom. I go in there with a weed whacker and hit them all. I'm going to lose what I planted. But I don't want this silverleaf nightshade. So there's, brute force attack, cutting it all down and hoping you get it before it goes to seed. And then there's something else in between. And today we're going to be talking about the something else in between. And that's just getting to the silverleaf nightshade, which means hoeing, cutting it off at the roots. And will it come back? I don't know. My field looks better, so I'm thinking cutting is good. We'll take a look next door at the half of a field that I mowed last year that had mesquite, see how much mesquite's coming back. I think you can get a hold of some stuff by mowing ahead of it without using chemicals, right? Which is better for you. You don't get cancer. Better for your farm. You can be a certified ag, and you're not spending money. You're saving a little money. So anyway, let me take a look. I'm going to set up over here on my stock tank, and we'll take a look at the 3 different methods real quick. And then I'll do a 10-foot section with one method, a 10-foot section with the next, do all 4 methods, see what y'all think. And then we'll take a look at the mesquite field that I mowed. This hay field here, I dug all of these out by hand. So, and I don't see any mesquite coming back. So I am saying you can get out here with a grubber, a mesquite grubber, and you can get these things out. I use the backhoe, right? The hayfield looks real good, real happy with it. Now, zoom in here. Zoom. There you go. Now there's silverleaf nightshade all over that. And that's what we're going to be working on. I'll get up closer and personal so we can make some decisions ourselves. Now, most of that hasn't gone to seed yet. First experiment will be 10 feet of this using a mullet chopper. Now, the advantage to this is, watch. Only thing I cut was that weed, right? So let's see how long it takes. Now, if I had expensive flowers growing in here, I might not want to kill all my expensive flowers. And this would let me just zoom right in. Now I take a walk or 2 a day. So a walk or 2 a day isn't a whole lot. But if I carried this chopper with me every time, and I chopped every time, and as I walked, that would be 10,000 weeds I could chop in a year, right? And I definitely want to get them before they go to seed, right? So this is very targeted. Let me zoom it back in there so we can watch me chop some more down. So that little section, I see they're already a bunch of them down. I'm going to do 10 feet from here to there, and then we'll use the weed whacker, and I'll do 10 feet of the weed whacker. Taking out some of this chickweed too, right now. All right. Well, that's a fair to middling part. Let me I'll do a little bit over here too. That way we'll have a good test area. Get a few more of these. That didn't take very long. I'll leave it run in real time, I think. Not real hard on my hands. All right, well, chopper, you could use a hoe for the same thing. This just lets me drill in and just target it and whack it like a spear. I'm in charge of my primal part. So advantage to this, obviously, is it lets me select what I'm hitting. So if I had valuable flowers along a trail, I wanted them to go to seed like bluebonnets, I could still get in there, whack those pretty good. So I like this. It's bigger than a hoe. It's gives me more control. It says scraper chopper with wood handle is what this is. 4-inch. So yeah, pretty handy. I use it to scrape bark off of things too. All right, that's test number 1. Let's do test number 2. All right, here's my little 10-foot section of the stock pond that I'm going to use the weed whacker on. It's a Ryobi 40 volt. I've already got a battery in it, full battery. You can see there where I used the mutton chopper and chopped a bunch out, and I could see that I missed 1 or 2 here and there. So that would be one disadvantage. I bet you I get that Ryobi going, it just chew everything up that I want. Let's find out. All right, speed and efficiency. But look at my pants, I'm just filthy. In a few minutes, there's chopped everything all over me. If I had, you know, if I had poison ivy or poison oak around here, listen, I would be covered in bits and pieces of poison ivy and poison oak. So there's something to be said about that little mullet chopper or hoe, just getting in there and getting the one weed that you want. In addition, I'm letting this field go to seed. So all the ryegrass in here, all the mahea grass, all the native good stuff that the cattle like is now weed whacked down. And sure, the nightshade, the purple nightshade won't go to seed, but nothing will go to seed. So very thorough spot. I did a little bit. I see I missed a little bit. I'm going to go back in there and finish weed whacking it a little bit more. But my goodness, you cannot argue the efficiency. Yeah. But it gets a lot more than the purple nightshade. It gets it all, right? So I got a 10-foot section of the mullet chopper. I got a 10-foot section of the Ryobi string trimmer with commercial grade line on it. I'm going to leave this sit here this fall, and hopefully I'll remember this video and revisit it. Look at these 4 10-foot sections and see which one removed the purple nightshade for forever. So let's go do another one of these. All right, here we are on a new 10-foot section of the stock pond with the silverleaf nightshade that I want to cut down. This is a rinse and repeat of the mullet chopper, but it's just a simple flat shovel. The advantage to this I have discovered is when I go out with a shovel, I can fix things like mole holes and trail work. So I get a 2-for-1 when I'm walking around with a flat bottom shovel. There's some manure in my way, I can throw it out of the way. I can knock branches off of trees, and I don't know. I just find walking around with a flat bottom shovel seems to work for me. Let me see how long it takes me to do a little 10-foot section there. Y'all can watch that and guess in yourself. But certainly it's not the tool that it was made for. But I'm telling you, it is really accurate. And you know, gets in there pretty fast. Again, it has the same advantage of the mullet chopper, that I get to pick what I want. But I'm noticing I have to do this a couple of times. That mullet chopper, man, it was gone. It was gone. And same thing with the weed whacker, right? Once I hit it, it was gone. And I'm saving the native grass. If you look, there's still native grass heads all over here. I didn't take away the native grass. Alrighty. Now, the only problem with the shovel, if you notice, I had to do a few times because my index was off because the shovel's got an angle. So in the hand going down, something like the mullet chopper is more like a spear. Bam, you hit what you aim for. The shovel, well, you know, if it moves a little bit in your hands, if you're not really looking at the base and you have to adjust, there's a little problem. But if you take a close look at that spot, all my native grass is still there. Let me zoom in. That's the same situation as the mullet chopper, right? You see the little grass heads are still there, so which means they're going to go to seed and continue to do their part. So I got rid of the nightshade and I left behind the good grass. Now, if I mowed that and or sprayed or used the weed trimmer, well, that opportunity would be gone. I'd be just stuck with everything mowed down. This way, I'm still going to get to seed the good stuff. All right, let me do the last test. So my last test is your old-fashioned weed sickle, right? Just handheld. I am going to say that it has some of the advantages of the other handheld weapons, cutters, weed whackers, because I am covered from that rotary weed whacker, that stream trimmer. I am covered with debris, and maybe I don't want to always be covered in debris. Also, I'm going to guess that this will let me hit one weed at a time when I'm so inclined. So, but if I want to rake down a lot of area, I could probably do it pretty quick. So let's find out. Without a doubt, the weed trimmer was, electric weed trimmer was a lot more powerful and a lot more quick. So let me get you in there straight so I can adjust this camera. All right, the last 10-foot section. And I'm recording this so that I can remember when I come back. So right there's a weed, that's silver nightshade, that's silver nightshade. Let me see. Well, I took a little more than just that weed, right? I took a little more, but not a lot more. Here is some mesquite. Well, I don't want mesquite at all. All right, so it's gone. Will it come back? I don't know. It might, who knows? Let me keep going. Well, I'm going to be honest. I think that was fast as the electric weed trimmer, and it let me kind of pick around. I left a little bit of the grass, if you take a look in there, but sometimes I had to get heavy-handed. But by far more grass is left in that than in the weed trimmer. So that's it for the experiment here. I'm going to move camera down. I've got my neighbors have sprayed their fence. We'll look at the neighbor fence, and then I'll use my weed trimmer. And that's the advantage of the weed trimmer. Getting this anywhere near a fence and not banging it against the fence and hurting your hands, I think would be difficult. The mullet chopper would work, but let me use that weed trimmer and see how long that takes. Hey Internet, so I want to take and talk about the 4 methods that I'm going to use to weed whack in there, because this spot right here that you're looking at, I hand cut when I go out on trips, go out on a walk. I'd carry a hoe with me or a shovel or a mattock, so I grab whatever was in my hand and I'd chop away. And a disadvantage right away, right, it doesn't let me get down there. Well, I could, but that would be difficult for me to get down on that pitch without falling and getting wet. You know, I missed that thistle, missed a couple of weeds, but overall, if I compare that to a spot I haven't serviced, which is just full of silver nightshade, and as I walk around, you can see where I stopped if you look real close, and it becomes more apparent where I stopped hand cutting, way over here. Every one of these with the little purple flower, and they are lovely, are toxic, right? They're toxic to the cattle. They're no good. So I got to thinking, if I was that effective in that little spot out on a walk, what is the best tool for getting weeds out? You know, many miles you'll have to hoe, right? And I got 30 acres here. It's not practical to weed whack them all for sure. But it seems to me like certain areas, getting a tractor up on here or a mower, you know, maybe I don't need to if I can service it with a little bit of, when I'm out on a walk, just walk through and weed whack a little area. So that was my inspiration for doing this set of testing. where I take 3 different ways, I cut it down. What I really want when I'm done is I don't want the weeds to come back like here. Well, this doesn't help the cattle. It doesn't help anybody. Most of these are noxious weeds. They're not making butterflies. They're not really doing anything. I leave the thistle every year for a little while. I like to get it before it goes to seed. Certain butterflies like thistle, but overall, everything you were looking at there was noxious. Just a weed. So Mother Nature doesn't always balance herself. There is a imbalance that can happen in nature, especially when something is burned over initially, and then the weeds come roaring in first and take over. Now, this is my test spots where I did the handheld is here. I did the handheld here, and then I did the weed, the handheld weed whacker. Here was the shovel. Here is the weed eater, the string trimmer, and here was the mattock. And I see that you know, I missed quite a few. I wasn't very observant. So that's my 3 test plots, all inspired because I did such a good job on that part of my stock pond. Just casually, I really wasn't focused on doing it, or I didn't go out to cut weeds. I just walked over there with something in my hand and chopped the weeds that I saw. And last year, though, this whole field was overgrown in mesquite. And this year, you look at it, nary a mesquite to be found. I mean, literally, I've seen 2, and we just chopped 1 down. Let's go take a look at some other things. All right, let me talk about another method of weed management that's often done in Texas, and that's using herbicides. In this particular case, my neighbor's fence line. And there's a little bit of overspray onto my side, but there's a season here in Texas where fellas go out and they do the fence lines, keep down the fire. So what I want to do is I want to leave this, of course, I've got 2, it's there, but I want to take the weed whacker along the sister side of the fence and run that weed trimmer and see how long it would take me to do that, and do a comparative, see how long the weeds stay down versus compared to the Monsanto or whatever was put on there. So let me go ahead and fire up my weed trimmer. Now, I guess you could try that with a handheld, but you know, I'm going to hit the post. I'm going to do some things. I just think that it would be too difficult. So let me do this here. I guess I wouldn't even try with a handheld, right? Alrighty, y'all. Let's see if I can see how long that took me. 6 minutes. There and back again. And coming back, I walked this side because anytime I found that silverleaf nightshade, I chopped into it with the weed whacker. So what I was doing is I was going down any place I found and I don't know what that is. I'm going to call it a primrose, but I'm not sure. But I definitely want these going to seed. I do enjoy them. And then Coreopsis, Indian pinwheels, Mexican top hats. I saw them all going down. Where possible, I skipped them with the string trimmer. Now, this is a heck of a good string trimmer. I will admit that. Carbon fiber, I'm telling you, that 40-volt lithium just lasts for forever. Notice I don't have to start it up, no fumes. I could just go on and on and on about the entire Ryobi line. Really enjoy it. I did take off the security guards so that safety guards, I could tap it. It wears out with this commercial string. I tapped it once doing that whole thing, and that was barbed wire. Now, Where it does kind of peter out is on any mesquite that's thicker than a pencil. And that's when it gets woody and tough, and it probably won't cut that. So I'd have to go back in there with my backhoe or something like that. Do like it a little better. I still got a green look down there, but I've got 2 mesquites growing on that fence line that I'd have to come back in and grub hoe out later, or do something later. Let me go down to one last spot so we can compare where I mowed mesquite and where I didn't mow mesquite. We can see if mowing mesquite works, because digging it out with a backhoe was a lot of hard work, I'm going to tell you. And these were 15 acres of field. I could not see you doing that on a, man, that was my limit, you know, like 6 hours to do both those fields. And, you know, farmers don't have all day. So let's see if mowing is the faster way to get things done, because you need to mow your fields anyway. So let me go down and we'll take a look at that. This section of the video is talking about mowing mesquite. And this part of this field I mowed. And I tell you, I see a few come up, just a few. And this part of the field, let me zoom in, I did not mow. And the mesquite came roaring back, as it should. It's a tree, right? So I do believe that mowing is a good mesquite management tool. I don't think you have to work as hard as I did, digging them all out by the root. Now, I think my methodology, they'll be gone longer, but it's harder work. I do not think you can poison mesquite to death. I don't think so. I think it just comes back around. Eventually, what people have to do is get bulldozers in their fields and push them all out. Now, these are just little pop-up shrubs right now, but it does not take but 5 years for you to have trees. The juniper and mesquite forest that I'm in right now, I've got to believe 15, 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, it was clear, but it is not any longer. It is a genuine scrub forest. And that's one reason why I'm going to make it restorative, because I think it's just a forgotten field. So this particular fence line's hit and miss. I see the neighbor sprayed some, didn't spray some. I'll let that one cook for a little bit, but I'm going to run up there with that with my tools, and I saw a little patch of silverleaf nightshade that was pretty thick. I'm going to whack that up real quick. See if they're gone next year. We'll see. This is a long-term experiment. You got to mow anyway. So my vote is for mowing and getting them little. And I think you can mow the mesquite away. I do. You just have to keep on it. And oh, they'll come back. Well, they'll come back anyway. Save you the money. You know, don't spend a whole lot of money on Monsanto. And I think you'll be in good shape. Just looking at the 2 field, that I mowed, looks pretty darn good. I mean, I don't see any mesquite except the big ones I had to leave behind. And this field here, not so good. I mean, you could really see a line where I stopped mowing. Now, this part of the field, I got last year late. So the silverleaf nightshade had already gone to seed by the time I got the mower down here. And just as a casual glance, comparing my field where I hit it on time and this part of the drive that I mowed late, you can see that there's a vast difference. And I think more than 60%. I think that's fair to say. I think that this nothing changed. So what I'm going to do right now, while the silverleaf nightshade is going to flower, is I'm going to get that string trimmer. And I'm going to go down, I'm going to trim along the fence, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to chop anytime I see a silverleaf nightshade. I'm just going to chop it. Now this would be easier with a mower, but right now my tractor's out at a different project. So I want to get it before it goes to seed, and see it was all blooming, getting ready. So let me do it this way, and we can all see. I'm going to put y'all on stop motion while I do this part. And play a little music, I'm sure. So let me go ahead and do this part. All right, well, we'll see what that stop motion looks like. But This was fairly successful for me. I was able to save the grass seed where it was coming up, chop in, hit what I wanted to hit. It would still eat up the area a little bit. So I saved the coreopsis, I saved the bluebonnets, I saved things I want to go to seed. Now this field is not coastal or something hugely valuable. This is regular native mahea. The cattle eat on it in the winter, and sometimes they'll step over coastal to eat this. I think it's more broadly nutritious than coastal. You know, it's kind of like kids like candy, but they need to eat, you know, their vegetables. And in the winter, the cattle are forced to eat this. So I went down that fence and I chopped all that silverleaf nightshade that went to seed last year. I chopped it up this year. We will see if this part of this field is done. And this is going to be a long-running experiment because I won't know until next year, or in a few months if the silverleaf pops back up, runs new shoots, right, and does that. So pretty excited about that. But in all honesty, I am filthy. And I'm covered head to toe in stickers and head to toe in whatever was coming out of there. So there's something to be said of that. It would be far easier if I'd pull my big shredder down and shred it and then weed eat where I'd want. Also, when the cattle were on it, they are part of nature. The cattle eat the good stuff. And then the weeds will be up high, and then I could run my shredder high and knock down the weeds. But the cattle right now are on coastal. They're on better hay. And so this is being saved for the winter. So overall, I think that I am satisfied that I can weed eat as fast as spraying, and I think that I get more out of it. I think the handheld chopping is fine if I'm going out on a walk or I'm maintaining a garden or a public space that I'm in all the time. I can whack a weed every now and then. But certainly once you start getting to 30 acres and whatnot, you're going to be mowing and using large agricultural means to manage that. And I don't think that we get any more out of spraying mesquite than I do based on what I see here with the mowing. I think the mowing was super successful. If you could take a look over the top of that field, I mean, you could see a distinct line where it stops being a mesquite field and starts being back to a hay field. Now, that was just me mowing it once last year, chasing that down. So I'm very happy. And then in the back fields, I went ahead and dug everything out. And of course, it's as clear as you can get. So me going down through here, trying to save grass and coreopsis and things I want versus cutting out silverleaf nightshade. Now this is a silverleaf nightshade I cut just over the fence in that pasture. Silverleaf nightshade I'm not going to cut. Leave alone. I think I got pretty good at chopping with a weed whacker. I'd turn it on its side and I'd come straight in like you're edging a sidewalk. And let me pick around. I see I left a few high ones still in there. I'll get them next month. But then I left all my coreopses, so you can see they're all Mexican top hats. They're all in there. And grass seed, all my rye seed. So, you know, I spent what, $700-800 last year just on rye seed on here alone. Look, you see all this grass seed? That'll all go, right? I'm going to call this a successful experiment. I think that I could get the skill set down where I could chop in and get the weed that I want with that weed whacker. We'll see. But I will say this much. I do like to get out that shredder and bam! But it's a heavy hand. I lose my bluebonnets, I lose my Indian paintbrush, I lose all my good stuff. So we'll see about this. And once the cattle eat around and leave the weeds alone, I'll be able to spot the weeds way far away, come back in and hit them again, hopefully before they go to seed. Well, this is Steve at 1000 Year Home. I want to thank you for watching. I want you to like, subscribe, follow me along. Admittedly, this will be a long-running experiment, right? But I already see the fruits of the labor of doing things mechanically and manually. And it didn't take me all season to do it. It took me one weekend, 6 hours for 15 acres to backhoe it out and move it. And this takes me, I see, about 6 minutes to do a quarter-mile stretch. So not a big hunk of time. And I think it'll still control the weeds, but we shall find out next year if this spot doesn't have any silverleaf nightshade, as well as the other stuff I've taken care of. We'll see. All right, like, subscribe, follow me along. Thank y'all. Bye.